Hey guys, it's Deanna. I talk all things homeschool, motherhood, and simple living. What about socialization? That is I guess that's a big one. That's probably the first question that anyone thinks of when considering homeschool, or the number one question you get when you share with family or friends that you are going to homeschool. No, they need to be socialized. And so in the beginning, that was our first question is, what about socialization? What about friends? At the time, we only had one, and so there were no siblings to play with. And when we were starting, kind of, I guess we consider school age to be like what, 3. Now that's when they start preschool and like traditional schooling. And so then I was not mentally where I am now as far as my philosophy on education. I was, I think, not totally like mainstream, traditional, because I knew that that just doesn't work. It's just a broken system. And so I was thinking of like Montessori or Reggio or something, but homeschooling for like those younger years. But at some point she would go somewhere because of socialization. If you're living and interacting with the world around you, you're being socialized. Socialization doesn't only happen in a classroom, full of children the same age as you, and a teacher. That's probably like the opposite of authentic socialization. So I think that's just a big myth. There are a lot of these ideas that, homeschool, your kids are going to be weird, and your parents are just sheltering you in the house. You're going to live in a bubble, and you're going to come out of that bubble and not be, a normal this person in the world when you enter it, and therefore are going to cause problems for other people because you didn't socialize because you were homeschooled. I think that's just broken ideology, and I think that more awareness and more videos like this, because that's what helped me kind of show you a look into what homeschooling actually looks like. And that, a lot of very quote unquote successful people, according to like society's standards of success, which often does not include like happiness, we're homeschooled. So it's not weird, it's not a new thing. I would say like mainstream traditional schooling is a newer concept than homeschool, because before we put children in buildings and classrooms and locked them in for 6-8 hours a day, they were homeschooled. They need teachers. I'm not enough. How am I going to teach them math and science? I struggled through math and science. How am I going to teach them to read? How am I going to teach them to write? Just get the worksheets or something. And this was so true for me that I went on to earn my master's. My background information. My bachelor's is in psychology, and my master's is in early childhood education. It's in teaching and learning. And I did that when I found out we were expecting. I knew that in some capacity I wanted to homeschool, and I thought that maybe that was just to the extent of like kindergarten. So after kindergarten, she would go, because I didn't trust myself or believe I was enough to teach her, because you need teachers. Unless you're a teacher and you went and did your certification and got a degree, you shouldn't be trying to teach your children. And parents are the first teacher. I truly believe that. And I believe that parents, as long as they're willing to learn alongside their children and do the research, who else is a better teacher than the person that loves you unconditionally? I don't have the patience to teach my child. This was something I shared with my husband. Trying to sit her down and trace letters at 3. We'll talk about that in another video. there would be tears for both of us, not just her. It was frustrating, and I once considered myself a very patient person, and I just thought, no, there's no way I can homeschool and teach this child who's very strong-willed. By the way, I'm learning that about her, and there's a great book about that I'll share. As I'll link it down in the comments. But I don't have the patience to homeschool. It's just not gonna happen. And I think that as I've learned more and have opened up my eyes to other pedagogy as far as how do children learn best, I've learned that we're just requiring way too much of them at such earlier ages than they are developmentally ready for. And there's pushback. Say you're at work and you're in a meeting and they're talking about something you really have no interest in, and they're forcing you to stay there, forcing you to sit still in your seat, forcing you to go do everything against your natural, desires or abilities. It's not going to be pretty. You're not going to enjoy it. And it's going to be hard for both the person trying to share information with you and yourself trying to receive that information. And so enter in self-directed learning, child-led learning, unschooling, if you will. I have a lot more patience than I thought, because she enjoys, like, she's learning. She'll ask me, can you show me this, or can you teach me this, or Mom, what's this? Those why questions are important. I'm mindful of where the money goes because I'm home, and I appreciate what my husband does and how hard he works so that I can stay home. So I thought, like, they're just gonna have to go to like free public school or we're gonna try to budget for them to, because I really didn't want them to go. I want them maybe go like Montessori. Then looking at the prices for Montessori, it's just like that, there's no way. Especially when I'm home, especially when I went and I got another degree. In order to do this, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to do this. But I thought, homeschool doesn't have to be expensive. It can be very simple. I think we make it expensive because we're trying to match traditional mainstream school, and so we need, I need a math curriculum. I need I need language, arts, science, history. I need all these textbooks, and I need all this supplies. I need a room and bookcases and tables, and I need to go to IKEA. It can be simple. You can look around your house and use what you already have. If you're doing something like unschooling or more of that self-directed, child-led, child interest, homeschool, then all you need, is like a notebook, something to write with, and books. You'll learn about me. I love books, and that probably goes back to, as a child, I loved writing and poetry and books, and so it's no surprise that I love books, and I still do. So you can learn a lot from just books. You can travel the world through books. I want to make sure that I distinguish the difference between textbooks and like living books, which is a big like Charlotte Mason term, living books. So instead of a textbooks to talk about history, and this is the easiest way to explain living books in my opinion, this is how it made sense to me. Instead of textbooks to teach about like the Holocaust, why not read the Diary of Anne Frank? Why not read different autobiographies of the people who lived through the times and really live through those moments with them through the books? You can study all types of things through books, and so you don't need all the expensive like equipment, because that you can go overboard with it unless you want to, but you don't have to. You can use nature. I'm very big on using nature and what God put on this earth for us, and you can do counting. Make math fun so that the kids aren't crying, that you're not crying. You can, collect, go on a nature walk, listen, spot birds. Like, there's so much that can happen on just a nature walk that if you write it down, you can connect the dots to your schoolish standards. But you can go collect acorns, and you can, take a piece of paper and a marker, and you can write out the number on little cards sitting in front of them, and give them a bowl of acorns that they collected, that they were a part of, and they can, count with the acorns. They can put them on top of the letter and practice the formation of the letter. They can, you can do math, like simple 2 plus 2, and write it, and they can count with the acorns and put them there. And then living math, like, I'll go on and on about that. But so it doesn't have to be expensive. You can join co-ops, but then again, that just adds, like, you don't have to make it look like what you see. My experience doesn't have to look like the next YouTuber or the next homeschool family that I meet. Our homeschool doesn't have to look like that. Our homeschool can be whatever we want and need it to be, and what our child wants it to be and needs it to be, for them to learn in an environment that supports them and who they are and their personality. So that was a reason we thought about not homeschooling, and we learned that it just doesn't have to be expensive. What about college? Well, one, if they choose to go to college, they can go to college. There are plenty of homeschoolers that go to college. My first roommate actually in college was homeschooled, and now looking back, I wish that I talked to her more. I think that stigma of homeschool, I was like, oh no, she's gonna be weird, I'm gonna have a weird roommate, and I feel horrible about that because I switched roommates. So that's just how deep this idea that society puts in our mind, that if you're homeschooled, you're just not normal. And I think it could be further from the truth, because she was a very caring person and very smart, and she well-rounded. Long story short, yes, you can go to college, but that was one thing. How are they going to get in college? We can't homeschool, because then what if they want to go to college and they don't have a diploma? So nope, can't homeschool. And so that's just a myth. They can go to college if they choose to. They can go on to live great lives as they so desire by being homeschooled. All right, so those are 5 reasons why we weren't going to homeschool, and I'm glad that we kind of debunked those myths and those fears and insecurities. And stay tuned for the next video.